Welcome, everybody, to a Delco Nerd Network podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Ragucci, and here with a few friends in the Delaware County area, we get in a basement and we talk about a certain topic. Today's topic is going to be the DCU Rebirth Volume 2. There it is, here to discuss, as always, the leader of the Green Lantern Corps, Chris Dreo.
Gooch, I just got back from my sector patrol. I'm ready.
Yeah, man.
To talk about the
Your show.
I am. Full-fledged plans that we've gotten for the somewhat newly minted now DC Universe. It's going to be fun. We kind of did one of these already.
Yeah, this is why this rendered is Volume 2. So, wait.
It was rendered a nerd a little bit.
Let's get back to the workshop. Yeah. Should we now rename the first podcast Volume 1?
Do we retroactively? We might have to do that.
No, I think we got to do it.
I know that's not hard to do either.
No.
Yeah, we might.
Yeah, no.
We might be saying that now.
Stop. We will.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We will do that. Yeah.
There's no might.
Actually, that's how it always was. Don't check it right now though. But yeah. So that first one was rendered a bit inert. I still think there was some good stuff in it. If you want to go back and listen,
like 3 weeks later after that came out,
I think we did that. Like very close to when they announced the whole Henry Cavil thing.
Yes,
it was probably beginning of November. I would say first week in November we did that.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, put it out. Let's see. But
I
still think it's a good one. You should definitely go back and check it out. See, we have some good timestamps and stuff in there. We've been trying to do that for every podcast now.
Thank you for bringing it up because I have been meaning to bring it up like every podcast since we started doing the timestamps. We've been time stamping the normal podcast because they kind of deserve it.
For sure, especially for something we can break up pretty easily.
2 months ago on...
I want to say it's like November 2nd or November 3rd or something like that. It was put up. But
come on, I need a date.
We did. Yeah, we talked about basically everything.
November 23rd.
Really? That's when we put it up? Okay,
yeah.
So we did actually.
So we were like 3 weeks before the Henry Cavill fiasco.
Yes, that makes more sense.
And then,
now.
but like, I think once that happened, and then once James Gunn kind of was like, okay,
solidified and being like nothing's set in stone.
Yeah, and we're gonna do the slate thing. We're like, all right, we need to have a follow up to this podcast.
And
so this has been cooking for a while.
Yes, and there was a kind of whole debacle with Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, and Black Adam and things like that, which has been really funny.
So what we're going to do is we're going to first talk about what we're doing, what we're playing, but how we're going to do it is we're going to like sort of do a timeline from that last podcast to now.
Probably actually from a little bit before that last podcast. It starts, actually no, well actually after, you're right. We start on October 20th on our first date.
Okay. So a little before, we'll go through some of the events, and then we'll talk about James Gunn's announcements, what we're doing, what we're going to see in the next,
what we think about it.
Technically just 2 years, but apparently they have a 10-year slate.
8 to 10 year, Gooch. Thank you.
8 to 10 year. But Trio, it's only been a week, less than a week.
Yeah.
What have you done in this past 7-ish days?
I've been playing more Dead Space, of course. We will be reviewing that next week, I think. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Other than that, Gooch, I finally finished a game.
Oh,
that's been long cooking in the oven. That I was a mere like half hour away from beating, and I stopped playing. I don't know why. I think I just got distracted. Do you want to take a guess?
No.
It's a major one. It's gonna be Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
I finally finished it. I went because I remember I was like,
what was that, like 2 years in the making?
Probably at least. No, maybe like a year and a half. I'd want to say, but finally beat it. I was in the castle. I don't know why. I expected the castle to be a lot more than it was, and I like stepped away from it for a little bit. But then I went back. I beat Calamity Ganon, as he is called.
Calamin.
I didn't really love the fights, to be honest.
Hot take.
I guess yeah. The fights by the end, like I don't know. I just feel like it's a lot of just. I don't know how to describe the Breath of the Wild combat, if I like love it or hate it. Like I think it's definitely good, and it obviously has its reasons. It's hailed to. I mean, it's a top tier game for almost everyone. It changes the industry, but I don't know. It's just there are certain parts about it that I'm just not a fan of that I don't think are hot takes at all. Like the breakable weapons.
Yeah,
and,
I think that's
and
one
like
of the biggest critiques of the game.
Certain aspects of just fighting and some of those mechanics, but otherwise, I mean, yeah, Breath of the Wild. I'm excited to get my hands on. What's the next one called?
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. I might pick up Skyward Sword, the HD, on Switch. Because why not?
You remember Gruce?
I don't at all. I don't think I played Skyward
He's
Sword.
like he's like the meme of that game. He's like one of like I wouldn't say friends. He's like the rival on the Skyward Sword place before you fall, and his name's Groose, and he's just a goof. You'll get to know him quite well, I'm sure.
But yeah, like the last Zelda I think I played was like by myself. Might have been Twilight Princess on like GameCube.
Played it on GameCube?
Yeah.
Did you have a Wii?
No, not then. I remember that was when I didn't have it.
But you did have a Wii.
No, I never got a Wii.
Okay.
When I was one of those sad kids who never got one. But then I got a 360.
Well, I guess I'm a sad kid too.
Yeah, you were. But it was. I mean, how many of those sold? That was. My grandma had a Wii. No, she didn't. But like a lot of grandmas probably did.
Yeah, fact. I think that's a fact.
Yeah. But aside from that, not much. I've been watching Last of Us, of course. We'll talk about that once that wraps up. And I watched a terrible movie on Netflix the other night that I can't remember what it's called because it was so bad. So, what have you been playing, Gitch? What have you been watching?
So I started last week. The Midnight Suns DLC for Deadpool came out. And honestly, he fits in way better than I could have.
Than you would have guessed.
Ever expected.
Yeah.
Nolan North,
of course,
voicing him
that's
like
awesome.
he does in the game.
Yeah, that works.
And he has his own like little storyline, but he kind of fits into the Abbey pretty well. But yeah, I haven't really finished it. But yeah, Deadpool has like a whole new deck of cards, a whole new game style. So it's kind of nice, and like they're doing like more characters. So I'm like I almost.
It seems somewhat successful.
I
very
think
least,
it is.
yeah.
I like almost don't want to beat it because like I want to like get all the characters like as I'm like in the main
middle,
story. Yeah. But that and I finally I finished Stranger of Paradise. The final DLC released last week, and I finished it last weekend. Different future. The trophies definitely weren't as grueling, so that's a plus.
Happy to hear
but it it's really weird. Japanese games love to like do not only time travel stuff, but like multiverse shit very often. So like this game is like, so there's a Final Fantasy fighting game called Dissidia, and it's literally like all the villains, all the main protags from every Final Fantasy game in a fighting game.
Okay.
And it's like this game is like in that universe, and I'm just like, this is so.
That's odd. Yeah.
This is so like Square. Like this is like beyond.
Very
like,
outside the box.
Yeah, but like again, like Japanese games, like I mean, Metal Gear doesn't do this exactly, but it's big and confused. Not, I wouldn't say Stranger of Paradise is confusing by any means. I mean, it's just goofy as fuck.
Sure.
But like they just like doing this multiverse kind of shit and like turning stuff on its head for like no reason at all, and it's just like what's Team Ninja's next game? I know they're doing Neo 2, but
Neo was pretty
or not Neo
successful.
2. Neo 2's out.
I mean,
Wulong? Is that it?
Is that the one that's like the open world game?
No.
Did we see?
I think it's Wulong.
Wasn't there another like Japanese samurai setting game, open world game that we saw in a couple recent years?
I think maybe.
I feel like it was somewhat recently, but
Wulong Fallen Dynasty I think is a Team Ninja game.
Got it.
Almost positive.
Okay.
I'm almost positive. Maybe I'm fucking wrong, but I don't know. Yeah, Team Ninja. Stranger of Paradise is all right. My main issue with it is like, why base like DLC off difficulty, making things harder and increasing your min max?
This is a DLC for that game, or okay, all right. I was confused. I thought this was so the whole DLC is based off of a difficulty level. You're saying
so every DLC like adds a new difficulty level and just makes the game even harder, and I don't really understand why.
And it makes you use that difficulty level. Like
yes, you have to. So, but
odd.
you can also use this thing called extra mode, which just makes the game really easy, and you can kind of breeze through it. And that's what I did for the most part.
Sure.
But I'm just like
what's the point?
Who thought that like that was a good idea?
Especially when that's not like the point of your game. Even like that's, I assume that's
it's the
like
point
difficulty.
of Team Ninja's games.
Okay.
But I think it's like I
guess they did do Neo and stuff.
I'm just kind of like who
do you think
is
you
this
are?
what people want?
Yeah.
like I understand.
What are you guys going after here? What's happening?
Right. But that's all I've been playing. Yeah, obviously Dead Space. We're watching The Last of Us. We'll talk about that in due time, people.
Absolutely.
In due time. But Trio, let's go back to October 20th.
All right,
2022.
Gooch, we're gonna start with something I want to call And as you can see, the Dwayne Johnson saga.
Oh, okay.
The Rock saga.
I was like, what?
Oh, no.
I was like, are you going off script here?
No. So I just wanted to put together, and Gooch had this idea to do. I think he kind of solidified it more of like.
Can I call it like The Rock? The Rockening? Or...
Yeah, the Reckoning. So.
Like something with The Rock.
From October 20th to about where we're up to now, we saw. Actually, it was more towards the end of December when it actually kind of all bore out. But we saw this kind of vying for power, it seemed, within WB. And this really seemed to be The Rock trying to get a very good hold on the DCU and become like a cornerstone of it. Absolutely. So we'll start back at October 20th. The official DC Comics Twitter account lightly spoils Cavil's return via meme one day ahead of his official debut. So I looked
Did
this
I
up.
forget this?
I don't know if we did see this or not. I think we saw him on the red carpet talking about it and basically saying it. But there was like, there was a tweet of like him. It was like them messaging on like it was like Superman messaging Black Adam via text message.
Oh, right.
And it was like, we need to talk. And he's like, very, just basically being like, he's in this movie. So a big part of The Rock's like buy-in here was, it seemed, to get Henry Cavill back. And he already used that to start promoting the movie right before it came out. Who knows why? Maybe it was because it didn't look like it was going to do well.
The Rock could not contain that news.
No, he couldn't.
He's like on the red carpet and he's like, like the hierarchy of power in the DC universe has changed.
We're bringing back the best Superman.
The most powerful being on Earth goes against the most powerful being in the universe.
Yeah,
and it's just like
we get he's like, really leaning into it at this point,
which is fine. I'm glad. At the time, I'm glad he was excited about it, but he did kind of give it away.
And I will say a little backstory to this: The Rock basically he was announced as Black Adam like 4 years ago.
4 years ago? So, I mean, he's been running that thing since Man of Steel.
He's been running a DC character since Man of Steel.
Yeah.
He's always had he apparently had this deal with WB to basically just pick and choose whichever character you want. And he bored it out for a while. Like one point he was teasing being Green Lantern with like Jon Stewart.
Could you fucking imagine?
Dude, there was so many, and it does seem like he was just trying to choose the character that could have put his foot best in the door to like make himself a cornerstone of a universe. And for some reason he chose Black Adam and like not Shazam. I don't know, because maybe he saw Shazam as
Why would you think he would be a good Shazam? He doesn't really fit the part.
Well, no, I mean, just because I'm saying Shazam, why pick Black Adam instead of the hero? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, that just seems very odd to me. But anyways, it's a very interesting kind of story to look into. I would definitely do it if you have the time and are bored. But then October 21st, Black Adam is released, obviously. It is met with mixed to negative reviews, despite a strong domestic box office. This was all via Variety. And then across social media, Johnson continues to emphasize that the film was made, quote unquote, for the fans. A narrative he carried throughout the film's promotional process. And I feel like we saw this.
And he does that with, like, I think everything he's in. Like, every movie he's in, he will really sort of gun for to, like, a level no other actor really goes
Well, do
to
you remember,
lengths
like, the year before he was filming, too? He was like, I'm going harder than I've ever gone before. Black Adam will be my peak physique. And I am never, I've never trained. And he did. Listen, we can't argue with that.
He fit in that suit.
He couldn't, tilt his head all the way up to fly, but it was fine. He looked insane. So yeah, it was made for the fans. October 24th, Cavil takes to social media to officially announce his return as Superman at apparently the go-ahead of WB. Specifically, it seems like the WB higher-ups that were like, I can't remember the names we said in the beginning, but the people who were like the studio heads at the
Zaslav?
Yes,
Zaslav?
I think so. No, I don't think Zaslav was in at that point. I can't remember. I'd have to pull up the other doc. But anyways, The Rock went around the Hamada and them at the time to get Cavil in. At this moment, they were still negotiating with Gunn on that day. I think that was the day he signed the deal.
And we didn't know that at this point.
We didn't know.
James Gunn is not even a thing in the conversation.
Well, there were rumors that him and Safran were meeting with WB to discuss a big new DC movie. Right. That's all we knew.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was announced that he and Safran the next day.
Yeah, and it wasn't really a red flag, right? Because he had done the Suicide Squad.
No.
He's doing Peacemaker. He's leaving Marvel. So
makes total sense.
It made sense that he would be possibly
He had a good
doing another
working-
DC
yeah.
film. Not necessarily be like, oh, he's taking over.
No, absolutely. And
Yeah.
we knew that they were trying to find a studio head at the time. They were also talking to the guy who was in charge of a lot of the Lego movies. Apparently, he was their kind of backup if the deal with Safran and Gunn fell through. But so yeah, October 24th, like I said, Cavil officially announces his return. The 25th, Gunn and Safran are formally announced as they are taking over DC Films. And then October 29th, Cavil announces he is leaving The Witcher, which after its forthcoming third season. So at the time, we all kind of assumed
it had something to do with Superman.
You would assume he was probably like, all right, I'm set up for a while, but also who knows what was going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah,
there's
and
mixed kind of messaging behind
right. And to talk about it,
was.
like I think we're still at the same place we kind of left off with the Witcher news. Was Henry Cavill had been reported, and he had also said that like if they get off kilter with the script and they go away from the books, I'm out.
Yeah,
and I think he dealt with that for what looks like 2 seasons.
Yep.
And it got worse in season 2, and he was like, "I'm doing season 3, but I'm out."
Yeah.
We don't really know exactly.
We really don't. That's all pure speculation.
What's going on? We don't really know what's going on with Liam Hemsworth to that degree, or it maybe they'll just not do season 4. Who knows?
Yeah. Well,
is season 3 finished filming for that?
Yeah, that's coming out, right? Didn't they show? They already showed trailers and stuff for it.
No, I don't think so.
Well, they definitely filmed it because that's where.
Yeah, they definitely have films.
Yes.
I don't know if it's done, but do they reshoot TV shows?
I don't know. They probably do some reshoots of some kind, I would assume. I'm going to delete these as we go along just so that way I'm not getting...
Oh, you're like moving me. Yeah, I was
yeah,
I'm in like November already. Like, what's going on?
So,
okay.
Yeah, he announced he was leaving that. But then on October 31st, the Hollywood Reporter relays
30th.
That the Black Adam... What?
30th.
What did I say? 4th?
31st.
Oh, my apologies. On October 30th, the Hollywood Reporter relayed that Black Adam had suffered a surprisingly large second week box office decline. So this is kind of when the writing, I feel like, started to be on the wall for The Rock. Like, it wasn't doing amazing. And then, they start to bring up things from IGN later, which we'll talk about. But this seems to be the kind of start of the downtrend. I think we'd be having a much different discussion right now on the future DCU slate if Black Adam went gangbusters and like did
you think?
Yes,
you genuinely think?
I think he would be. I think why wouldn't you? If that was an amazing selling franchise, it made gangbusters and did well, and everyone loved The Rock. That would be your focal point. I really
Batman
do.
v Superman is one of the highest grossing films of all time. You would think from that logic,
but no, that's not. See, I don't think that's equal because
okay.
At the same time, that with names like that should have grossed a lot more like than what it did, and technically that is a disappointment by the IP that it. So I think that's a bit apples to orange comparison. I think if this one did very well, but.
And the only thing I was going to finish was to keep Cavil in as Superman. That,
that would be different. And I think, again, that would be another different set of circumstances. If Black Adam blew away its budget and made all its money back and then even more some, I do think it would be different. And I think that would have made Henry Cavill have to stay as Superman and maybe put Gunn in a different situation. And again, I don't think he was necessarily, and based off the timeline here, I don't think he was in the room for the decision to keep Henry Cavill on in the first place, and they obviously didn't sign him on with a real contract. I think he came in after this had already been decided, and he's like, guys, this is not what I was thinking, and you're bringing me on to create this new DC universe, and it's supposed to be at my vision, and you're already making decisions before I'm even put onto this.
It seems like there's already been like a deck of cards put on the table for me to play with.
Exactly.
But
so
I just want a whole new deck.
But in certain regards, and that's where I actually have a few questions,
and
which we'll
definitely talk about it. Yeah.
So November 3rd, Gunn and Safran begin their work at DC Films. Cavil tells Collider that he has yet to speak with Gunn about his Superman return, but is excited about Gunn's hiring and looks forward to speaking with him at length about this character's future.
One thing I don't think I ever thought, and I don't think it ever came up in our Discord or on our conversations, that like Henry Cavill was gonna be out. Like it didn't cross our minds because that announcement was just made.
It just seems like a PR nightmare.
Take it back.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
like this whole this whole Warner Brothers thing is a PR nightmare.
No, exactly. But even more, I guess I was like, wow, I really can't. That showed me I couldn't put anything past WB at this point. But I also get to a degree where James Gunn's coming from. But then there are some more confusing things that, like I said, we'll talk about later. So November 18th, IGN tweets a comparison between Black Adam and Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, after the latter film manages to surpass the former's global gross in under 2 weeks. Johnson responds directly, saying it's unfair to compare Black Adam's numbers to an established franchise. Now listen.
I guess.
I get it to a degree of what he's saying.
I guess.
The MCU is an established franchise. Black Panther isn't. I think there are a lot of cultural things that backed up that movie too, that made people go out to see it and made it make a ton of money, which is great. But shut up, The Rock. You're like, just, it's not doing well. Like, you could tell he was really on the defensive at this point. And that's when we kind of get later down the line with some interesting stuff coming in December. But November 22nd, Geekosity reports that its sources tell them Cavil's new DC contract includes television appearances. Gunn responds quickly to this on Twitter, saying that no one but he and Safran know about the future of DC or what actors will be signing on, and openly questions their motives and the motives of their sources.
So I think this is the point in the timeline when James Gunn, the only thing you can believe about any of the DC rumors going on is from James Gunn's Twitter. Yeah. Period. End of story.
Yes.
Because it was like, for a few weeks, it was like these DC rumors just kind of coming out of the wet work.
And that's
out of nowhere. Like, where are these coming from?
Well, and the problem is WB's always been a leaky ship.
Yeah,
too.
Right. I think we've talked about that on Volume 1 when we were great title.
It's really is. It's good stuff. Yeah, it works out.
We did good. Yeah, like talking about it, like, oh, like remember Gotham City Sirens when they announced, and like all these like really early on, not casted, no director DC projects that were just kind of like leaked and like in the sphere. Mm-hmm. Nothing ever happened to them. Never went anywhere.
No. Well, and that was the thing. It was because they were like, they did seem to be projects in very early development that just someone would tell someone that they're working on, and then it would be a story.
Right.
And it's like, guys, that isn't even necessarily even in pre-production, but I digress. November 23rd. Things are not looking good for the Black Adam box office. It's looking like it's probably going to break even, which in real money means it's going to lose money. But November 23rd, Johnson posts a lengthy video on his Twitter boasting on the, quote, really strong Black Adam box office numbers while celebrating the film being number one movie on iTunes after a strategic video on demand release.
Was this before or after?
Before the article.
Yeah, with his people.
What do you, that they think he leaks? Which we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah,
That's not until December.
This ain't happened yet. That's the big moment.
He also continues to paint DC and Warner Brothers as the villain of the Cavil's return saga. And then he goes, I was going to read this quote, but he just basically goes on to say, DC didn't want to bring him back. Warner Brothers didn't want to bring him back. I brought him back. I brought back your Superman. Look at me. I'm cool.
Right.
Without really even talking about
and that seemed,
like James Gunn or any of the change of like leadership and things like that.
And that seemed to me to be kind of somewhat of the truth. It seemed like The Rock had...
to a degree, for sure. I think he...
not illustrated. What's the word I'm looking for? He created the vehicle in which Henry Cavill would return. He started the conversation. And the ball got rolling from his end.
Sure.
And everything.
And he tried to really use that as his, look at me, I'm the good guy. And listen, I think that's very cool, but I think he deliberately is using him not because he necessarily... I don't know. I can't read in The Rock's motives. I can only speculate from the outside. It looked like he was his pawn, really, to my degree. Like, and even how the reporter says this, it does seem like he was like, I don't know if he probably did believe that Henry Cavill was very good in the role and he wanted him back, and he saw the fervor from fans to do so. But who knows his true motives on getting him back? I can only speculate that he was really just trying to use him to put his foot in the door. But December 5th, Variety reports that Black Adam could lose between $50 million and $100 million in total. Some silence for 2 days from Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. December 7th, my birthday, also Pearl Harbor Day. Rest in peace. Deadline reports that Black Adam will net a $50 million profit. This information comes from a leaked balance sheet obtained from an anonymous source. Johnson then shares this article on his Twitter later that day, making it his last tweet about the film.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's the last time he's ever talked about it.
Besides the follow-up, which we'll talk about after. But yeah, basically that's it. The headline story, and then there's also a headline story about Patty Jenkins' third Wonder Woman film being officially dead, which spawns rumor that the director walked away during creative discussions with Gunn and Safran.
Right. So real quick, let's stop there.
I meant to follow up. She made a statement about this after.
Yes. So nothing from Gunn officially about this at all. But there was a big rumor that Patty Jenkins was in a meeting with Safran and Gunn, and she kind of made a big stew about it.
Yeah.
Like she got upset or
and kind of stormed out or something. Yeah.
And then
that was the rumor.
And then she had basically said, no, that didn't happen. But she confirmed that she met with them, right?
I think she said that there was nothing that they said that. Yeah, I think she did, and they said that nothing could be done to make it move forward at the time. Which, from what we're knowing now, seems to be because they don't have Wonder Woman in this kind of first phase of what they're planning right now. I don't think it happened. It could have happened. Apparently, she said they don't know what a script is or something like that. It was something to that degree.
So
in the report.
I guess James and Safran had to sit down with, I guess, every project that's sort of in the hopper right now.
Yeah, at the moment.
Wonder Woman 3 being one of them, and be like, okay, like what do we have?
And what are we?
Are we actually going to go forward with this at all?
Yeah.
So, and I still think Wonder Woman 3 could definitely happen, and we'll talk about that later. But whatever it was, it's definitely not.
Yes, correct, absolutely. So other things that came out of that report.
Are we going to call this like the Miller? You're talking about the Flash next.
Yes.
You're looking at me like I was crazy.
Oh no, I was confused. For a second.
We got to like the Ezra Miller escapade or something crazy.
The Flash was said to at one point contain several Snyderverse cameos that are now being cut to avoid getting Snyder fans' hopes up.
And I've seen who's talking about that. Not only in the Flash but also Shazam. I've heard both of those things.
That would make sense. They could have been like a Cavil cameo for that or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying in Volume 1, that like there's no way there's not going to be a cameo in
Shazam
Fury of the Gods.
Or Fury of the Gods. Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry. And then it also reiterated the Man of Steel sequel once being considered that was still on the table when Cavil announced his return.
Right.
But then doubt was also cast on any Black Adam sequels, despite Johnson's enthusiasm. They also relayed rumors that studio execs have begun to resent Johnson for how he handled Black Adam's rollout, and especially Cavil's return. So I'm wondering if like he told Cavil to like do the announcement, or like his people did, like his because some of the agents apparently know some of the WB execs up there. That's how they got around the higher ups to go to the other guys to get him approved. So I'm just wondering who told him specifically to.
And then ironically, like that weekend, he's on like a panel
to talk
about
it. Yeah,
he
he was on something else to talk about. I think it was for Enola Holmes. It was when he was doing press rounds for that.
Yeah.
And then they just brought it up in that.
Very timely.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It sucks.
That like
I think it just happened to line up with his press junkets.
If it's actually, but like, is this all grand plan or is this all just coincidence? You know?
Oh, I think that was coincidence. I think that was because this seemed like it was very fire drill. Like they were figuring out
if the Rock was really pulling the strings.
Well, The Rock, and I also think
and his agents,
and his agents
people.
and such, yeah. But I don't know. I really don't. So, and then at this point, the last franchise that was reportedly dead in the water, quote unquote, dead in the water. Oh, thank you. Was Aquaman, with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom allegedly wrapping up the story definitively so that Momoa can be cast as Lobo.
Not true.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Yeah.
Or at least as of right now, it definitely isn't.
We'll talk about that later.
And then it was talking about Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman universe and how they are allegedly being left alone, and they will still be handled by DeLuca and Abdi. Those were the two new studio heads at WB that are in charge of like the DC side, I think, or they might just be involved in charge of the whole studio. I can't remember, like the broader studio.
So who's DeLuca and Abdi?
Those were the guys that took over for. I think they were the guys that were above Hamada. And then
above him. Okay.
Yes, those were the two that were like. That's why I think they run. We talked about this in Volume 1. I can't remember specifically, but I think they ran the movie division, and then Hamada and them were DC. And then now James Gunn and Safran took over that, and those two are still above him. But I could be wrong.
Okay.
And then at this point, on December 7th, Gunn and Safran were supposedly less than a week away from finalizing their pitch to the studio for the newly minted DCU. After this day, the faithful day, December 7th, December 8th, James Gunn took to Twitter to address the rumors, in part to urge fans to take the Hollywood Reporter's story with a grain of salt. He says certain parts of the report are accurate and others are false or yet to be determined. So everything was still very much in flux at this point. December 10th, in response to a tweet from Gunn commemorating the release of 1978's Superman, a user asked if the fans would be getting a Superman film in the near future, and then Gunn said that was his top priority. Right. And then there was this whole other thing about like a YouTuber claimed that quote-unquote sources tell him that Gunn disliked Henry Cavill, which the director quickly denied with a blunt reply. When the YouTuber continued to insist on the narrative, Gunn fires off a lightly heated tweet in response, ending the conversation. So again, I appreciate how direct he is. And again, that's nothing but pure speculation. Like, how could you know that? Right. And I hate when sources say.
In the time where everyone, again, shit was just coming out of the woodwork, like and everyone was kind of freaking out, and it's like, what's true? And it's like, I was telling people so much, like, if you don't hear from James Gunn, it's not true.
Yeah.
Just flat out. Yeah. Like, there's no way. Like, there's some of this probably is true, or there's some
and it was
truth
true.
to
I mean,
it.
some of it comes out, something that came out that was true.
But, like, where is this coming from?
That's what I mean.
So
you just can't. I find that I only trust sources that repeatedly seem to get it right. That's the only way you can do it with sourced information like that.
Yeah, leaks.
Like Mr. Sunday Movies, I will say I think he's really good with
gaming leaks have a lot of, like known people who will leak certain things.
Absolutely. And if that's coming from them, they have some credibility. That's all you can do. But December 12th, in his quote, Things I'm Hearing newsletter for Puck News, journalist Matt Baloney says Warner Brothers execs believe Johnson leaked a false balance sheet to Deadline for the December 7th report.
Pretty wild claim. Could
again, this is also a
Is that like illegal?
You would assume so. There's something you're not supposed to do about it.
Right. Yeah, like what are the laws against that?
Yeah. Again, Dwayne, if you really did this, man, it just
Come on,
reeks
let's
of
talk.
Yeah, let's go. I really want to talk. I don't want to put you down. It just feels, what's the word I'm looking for?
Disingenuous?
Not even disingenuous, but like you're
like
groveling.
Everything.
Like it's just like, what's going on here?
Like, think about it. He's been running with this character for years, and he's now at the point when the movie's finally out. It doesn't get great reviews, but it's definitely not the total piece of shit. And he wants it to be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And he'll lie and he'll kind of manipulate information to get it that way.
You know what he wants? He wants his Terminator. He wants like his.
But like, why?
Because he wants to be an action star. He
is.
No, but like, do you think he's on the level of like an Arnold? Like back in the day? That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he wants to get to
nobody is besides Tom Cruise.
No, I agree with you. But I think that's what he's trying to go for, this persona. And it just doesn't quite land all the time. And I think he makes great. I actually really love Jumanji. I think he's great in that. I think he's put in some great roles. But it just seemed weird that he hitched his cart so heavily to this. Anywho, December 14th. Cavil announces on Instagram that after finally meeting with Gunn and Safran, he's officially done playing Superman.
What a fucking day!
What? It was a bomb.
That was a moment
of silence
where
that was only like 2 weeks later.
So this was the moment that I was like, it's over. The Snyderverse. Put down your arms,
Gooch.
Put down your arms. Gooch, it's over.
Gooch has a grave in the backyard where he buried a metaphorical body of the Snyderverse. And it's just a cross.
I mean, like, yeah. I think for the first time in my life with the Snyder stuff, I was like, this is it.
Truly, yeah.
And there was a rumor recently, or not a rumor, but like, Snyder fans were kind of petitioning for Netflix to buy the stuff, which would kind of be cool, but like that's not gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen. Yeah, it's just,
and like I guess you can hope for that, but like that's really picking at the bottom of the barrel here. Yeah,
make the comic,
like and
make
like
the comic book.
Henry Cavill, what a class act, like.
I would,
and then he gets the Warhammer series.
What I would have done to been a fly on the wall. In that conversation just between those three, because I don't know, I think it's we'll talk about the casting stuff later a little bit more, but it's interesting. He's been very definitive on the Superman casting, I think because it's the first thing they're doing and it's on his mind right now, and he has a vision for what Superman is.
Right. So they have to dismiss
So they
it and
really
get
have
it
to
out.
dismiss it or say that it's happening.
Right.
So whereas like where you get
can't
to something
lollygag.
like a Shazam, who knows when that's going to happen? When it comes back, who knows? Maybe whoever they have involved, they see it as Zach Levi or whoever it is, and then they go with it. But it's still sad nonetheless. It was a day that rocked the world. Gunn stated on his
Pun intended.
yeah. He also took to Twitter with an announcement. They both put out like this kind of press briefing. Seemed very amicable. You know, nothing but sympathy and respect for Henry Cavill.
Right. And
James Gunn even says this.
Right.
He got dicked around by WB. We'll say the exact quote later, but it sucks. It really does.
Anyone probably on the Snyder end got dicked around by WB. You know?
No, absolutely.
Like,
but
it-
I
it-
think him especially because he just was like, they just weren't doing anything with Superman.
he was there from the beginning.
Yeah, and they weren't doing anything with Superman, and like Ben Affleck didn't want to do it anyways, so Batman was kind of out. Flash, they're like in perpetuity with. Aquaman's still around. They're still doing Wonder Woman stuff. Like, how are you doing Wonder Woman and you're not having Batman? Yeah, it's just or Superman. Like,
It is crazy.
It's
it
insanity.
is crazy.
It's insanity
to think about Superman being so
Well, they just didn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole for some reason.
sideline.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
It's so strange.
It's sad. Yeah. But moving on, December 15th, The Rap's Humberto Gonzalez says Dwayne Johnson turned down a cameo in Shazam Fury of the Gods. Dwayne.
I think that's a lie. I think it would have shot it at this point.
No, he's talking about retroactively. Like he said, I think he's talking about before. Yeah, you're right. He had. I think he's saying he had turned down. Not that this happened like this moment. He's like Humberto Gonzalez. He ran Heroic Hollywood and stuff. Like he knows stuff in the industry for sure. I think they offered it to him at one point, probably while he was filming Shazam or filming.
See, I would say they filmed it.
What do you mean that they? What I'm confused.
They filmed. The Rock filmed a cameo for Shazam.
I see.
Like,
Yeah,
why
you
would it
could've-
happen this late? You know?
What do you mean? I'm confused.
What do you mean?
Because he's saying that he at one point turned. I don't think he's Humberto
So
Gonzalez.
let's
is
go
saying at this moment.
Let's go back 6 months.
Yeah.
Why would he turn it down 6 months ago?
Because he doesn't want to be. Because he wants to keep separate from Shazam. He sees him as this kiddie character. He doesn't seem to respect that character whatsoever and understand that that's where
From the
Black
perspective
Adam's
of
origins come from.
From the expectations of somebody who understands the source material, that would make sense that The Rock would be in it and want to be in it because it's Shazam. It's his rival.
Yeah.
So from the Rock perspective, it makes sense, I guess, that he would not want to be.
He wants to be
in
seen as his own
Shazam,
character.
But like again, it still doesn't make sense because it's like,
But
dude, where are you?
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like with The Rock, it makes perfect sense. He wanted
Like,
to
it doesn't
build
make any
this
sense. Don't you
character
understand like where fucking Black Adam is from?
Exactly.
How can you have? It's like doing Venom without Spider-Man. We watched it and it's kind of disjointed as fuck.
Yeah,
like we did it.
You have to skip some pretty important things, or you miss a cool trick, like with Venom and Spider-Man. But even especially with Shazam and Black Adam, I think I mentioned this to you before. Having a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid fight a 5,000-year-old god that has the same exact powers as him, that's an interesting trick. That's an interesting movie. We can't see that now, at least at this moment, or we never saw that.
I mean,
should have
we
been,
won't.
And we won't.
100%
Well,
won't.
at least in this iteration, I think at some point we might, like 10, and maybe if this is successful and they keep going with it. But it just sucks because they wasted that shot. It could have been a really Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, should have been Black Adam's introduction.
Yeah.
And then he should have led into his own movie after that. At the end, he kind of has a reckoning with like maybe this kid. And I wish he had like some accent or something and had the fucking the widow's peak.
And the pointy ears.
And the pointy ears. Like, do it. It's not hard. He could have had a really cool introduction. Then he could have been like, he has this heel turn at the end where he's like, I see what you're like, you know, he grows and he becomes more of an anti-hero.
Batson.
Billy Batson.
I don't know why.
And then
I
he's
talk
like, all right, fine,
this,
I'll go back to
like a
conduct.
Russian.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he'd be more Arabic, but I don't want to. That sounds worse. Yeah, it just seemed like his ego really just got in the way. But moving on, December 16th, a source at Hollywood Reporter calls Cavil, quote, a pawn in Dwayne's failed attempt to control a piece of DC. And I really did feel like I just garnered that the whole time. December 20th, Johnson finally breaks silence. He announces he has met with James Gunn and Peter Safran and announced that neither he nor the character of Black Adam is going to be involved in Gunn and Safran's first chapter of storytelling. And then he goes on to blah, 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 talk about how the door's always open. And I always love the Black Adam character.
No, it ain't.
Dwayne, I'm sorry.
No, it ain't.
Dwayne, you made some great movies. I genuinely like you. It's just what this wasn't.
Could have been better in Mommy Returns.
This wasn't it, pal. Yeah, I agree.
You could have showed up to do that shot, and we would have never had that CG nightmare.
And then there was some stuff in like January that I feel like kind of, explains itself, and then we get the slate. But there was interesting tidbits about Dwayne Johnson pushed for producing credits on Super Pets, but quote did little to promote it. I don't know
which doesn't seem right because on
I feel like
Instagram,
I saw it all the time. I feel like he was talking about it all the time.
He like dressed up as a fucking dog.
Yeah, I don't know.
like
I don't
crypto.
And then he apparently insisted on a tequila bar at the Black Adam NY premiere, even though the film is PG-13, and this was to promote his
tequila brand.
Which, to be honest, that doesn't even. Again, if that movie does well, that doesn't matter. But it didn't do well.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Kids are going to this fucking thing? It's a red carpet premiere. It's all industry.
Exactly. So yeah, I agree. And then at this point, Wonder Woman was reportedly not part of James Gunn's quote 3-year plan at the time. I don't know exactly what we knew, but and then January 13th, Reeves talks about how he's going to meet with Peter and James in a few weeks to discuss a long-term plan of the quote Batverse. Gunn reiterates that he had not yet cast Superman and does not have anyone specific in mind beyond youth. He wants a young Supes, which is interesting for the direction they're saying they're going, but we'll see. And that, Gooch, concludes our Dwayne Johnson, The Rockening. I like The Rockening. The Rockening of DC.
I'm good with names.
It is. It's good stuff. I appreciate it.
I think this doesn't really have anything to do with The Rock, but Titans and Doom Patrol got canceled in this time period.
We were going to talk about the Elseworlds stuff a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's proof of the CW stuff is already being canceled. I think Gotham Knights will air, and that's it. They'll air that first season, but it ain't going anywhere. And we'll also talk about this. Superman and Lois will be another season or two, and then it's out. So
that's going to be a cool show to just have as its own thing, though. I will say, Superman and Lois, it's kind of a. But I'm sorry,
and they clearly identified its popularity and success. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because it's clear that they're getting rid of everything that is not in James Gunn and Peter Safran's plan. They are cleaning house, cancel all the shows. Well, and James Gunn did say it seemed like that was being done.
Clearing house was being. Before. I mean, we saw
Batwoman, but I think I don't know how. I don't know how I believe that because I think it would have been done anyway. The only DC Universe survivor at this point is Harley Quinn,
and that's technically Elseworlds too, right now.
You would have
they don't mention it, but you would assume.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So. January 31st, Gooch. The plan.
Tuesday,
January 31st.
12 p.m. EST.
Quote, the 8 to 10 year plan of what DC Studios will be in film, TV, and gaming.
Do you want me to read his opening remark?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just to give you a
just
breath.
a little, yeah, that'd be great.
Hey, everybody. I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. As so many of you know, DC has been disconnected from film and television for a long time, and it's one of our jobs, mine and Peter's, is to come in and make sure that DCU is connected in film, television, and gaming and animation, and that the characters are consistently played by the same actors and it works within the story. Again, this is like transcripted from the video, so it might sound a little like disjointed as he's talking, but real quick, the quote you just said in the beginning. It is great to see that not only are the movies and the shows going to be intermingled, but games.
Yeah. It's a lofty
animation. They're truly going to an extent that Marvel really has not even done.
Listen,
which would be crazy to think about.
I'm going to pretense this with the amount of times WB has said they're going to do a thing and followed through with it. I can count on my one hand. So, that being said,
right.
Say this all goes through. I think that idea is great. I think it's a lofty goal. It is a really lofty goal. It's a really real long-term plan. And even just with actors crossing over, you got to think about how that works contract-wise. And, it's money. It's definitely a good chunk of change to keep all these actors going, especially across a bunch of different mediums. But just off the bat, he definitely reeled me in with just that whole intro. It got me excited. And before we get into it, I was watching Dan Murrell's wrap up of this. He's a great YouTuber.
Shout out to Dan Murrell.
Yeah,
I haven't watched his video yet, unfortunately.
He used to be on Screen Junkies and stuff, but he has his own channel now. Great stuff. He went over the writer's room that he found, at least the people he could find, notably on it. So far we have, so there's going to be a full writer's room for this universe now. People James Gunn has collected personally, apparently, and really thought stuck out. And Peter Safran's definitely very much involved in this. He's more of the money man, of course, but Gunn is making
clearly
more
James
of the,
Gunn is the face.
And the more creative directed guy. So the writer's room. We're starting out the list. We got Drew Goddard, who is known. He wrote Cloverfield. He did some writing in Cabin in the Woods, some Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think he did a few other like Joss Whedon things. So I don't know how you're gonna feel about that. But he was the Daredevil series creator, actually, which I didn't know. He stepped away, I think, after the first season or two. Yeah, from the Netflix show.
Right.
Then you got Christina Hodson, which has a bit of a mixed bag here. So, Bumblebee, which is apparently very good, and I still want to watch. Umbrella, no, I'm sorry, I went on. She wrote the forthcoming Flash film, or at least co-wrote, I think. James Gunn called that one of the best superhero movies he's ever seen, so we'll see how that goes. Batgirl, which was canned.
We'll talk about it.
And then we got Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of Harley Quinn, or whatever the fuck that's called. And I don't mean that. I just mean because that's a long title. It's just I don't want to say the whole.
I understood what you meant.
No, I know, but I didn't want to sound like fuck that movie. And then after that, we got Jeremy Slater. He wrote Fan Four Stick. That was chopped up by the studio, so I'll give him a pass on that. Umbrella Academy, he had a big part in. I don't know if he was a series creator. I can't remember. He was a series creator for Moon Knight. So that's pretty cool. And then he was also a writer, I think, on Death Note, or a producer. It's funny.
That Death Note movie I heard is trash.
I didn't hate it.
You watched it?
Yes. I watched it when it came out.
Have you watched the anime?
No. And I think that's why I liked it.
Yeah, it's probably...
Because I think I just think it, like, knowing nothing at all about the anime... The concept worked, and I understood what they were trying to say.
Yeah, Death Note has been an anime that's been on my list for a while, and I'm like, I gotta watch the anime before I watch this movie.
Yep.
So.
And then you got Crystal Henry.
I think it's Crystal Henry.
Crystal Henry.
Yeah.
She wrote the Watchmen TV series. She has some other credits. I didn't have the chance to look them up.
That really
but that's
made
a good
my
one.
dick go hard.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, it's funny because they said Watchmen, and I was like,
ugh.
like the comic, because he was talking about comic book writers and such
right,
too.
Because we're gonna
talk
about
the TV
Tom
show.
King. Yeah.
That makes more sense. Yeah, she's an Emmy winner. She's wrote on a few other things. Then we have Tom King, who was a pretty major comic book writer in the past 10 years.
Recent comic book writer. I think he started with Injustice.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive Injustice was his first major role.
Yeah, so he relaunched and wrote Batman from the 2016 to the 2019 run. I actually read most of that. It's very cool. It's where Gotham Girl and Gotham Man show up and stuff like that.
So it's the Rebirth.
It's Rebirth, yeah. Then he wrote the like a very well-renowned Mr. Miracle title. I think like that you would know if you saw the
I know what
front,
it is.
You would
it's
see
a big Bard, isn't it? Too?
Yeah, and then the Vision. He also wrote the family one where he has
the WandaVision.
Yes, yeah. And then Supergirl, notably Woman of Tomorrow, which
cannot wait.
We'll talk about very soon. So yeah, pretty interesting writing room so far. The only one that's interesting to me there is Christina Hodson. She seemed to has had some mixed bags, but hey, hope for the best. All that good stuff. So now we're moving on to the Elseworlds stuff. I mean, I don't know if we have to read this whole thing out, Gooch. If you would like to, you can.
Would you like me to, Trio?
I mean, it's up to you. If you think it's best, go for it.
Let me blitz through it real quick. So this is a little bit out of order, but he does his introduction and then he talks about the Elseworlds stuff. If something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that is clearly going to be labeled as DC Elseworlds outside of the mainstream DCU continuity. Makes sense. Now, Peter and I have gotten pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been a kind of character in his own part of the DCU. Fact. So he connects very well that to the movie that leads directly into the Flash. I don't really understand what that means because he contradicts himself.
Well, it doesn't connect to anything else, so you can lead into Blue Beetle, which is also not really. It's a brand new thing, so you can kind of set. I don't think it's gonna lead to. I don't think it's literally gonna Shazam is gonna set up that. I think that was just more of an aside, like how we.
Yeah. So he said this movie goes directly into Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love that resets the entire DC universe. We have confirmation that this is officially Flashpoint. Then moving into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2. I think my biggest question here is what the fuck Blue Beetle actually is at this point. Like, where it fits. We know Flash is going to reset everything.
I think it's just going to be a new... It's just going to be a Phase 1 movie.
Okay.
Like, to bring in a Marvel... Like, to just... Let's put it this way.
It's so funny that it's like Blue
I know, you're
Beetle's like the starting point.
I would love if it's just, this is Blue Beetle, this is his origins, this is a compelling villain.
I think Ted Kord is. It's a gender bend.
Yeah,
Ted Kord.
I think they might be doing real Ted Kord, though, considering we're getting a certain other character that we'll talk about at the end of this
Good
series.
point.
But, yeah.
But then the Elseworlds stuff.
So Elseworlds, that's what he's saying. That's going to be the brand on everything that is not part of the full-fledged DCU. Good stuff.
So
Great
our
things.
Elseworlds stuff consists of the Batman Part 2, which is coming out October 25th, 2025. Todd Phillips' Joker, Folie à Deux. Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Superman film, which I didn't know was still a thing.
Yes.
Superman and Lois, Teen Titans Go, Titans, and Doom Patrol are all part of the Elseworlds brand.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot of things that we didn't list on there, but basically anything that's not going to be consisting of these characters that are connecting. So yeah.
I'll lead into the last quote, and then we won't read everything he verbatim says because we're probably just going to talk about it. So, talking about Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects. Me and a group of very talented writers have started to map out an 8 to 10 year plan of what DC Studios will be in film, television, and gaming. The first chapter is called Gods and Monsters. This is this one I'm about to tell you is going to be part of our first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter.
Yeah.
So again,
part one,
Gods and Monsters, chapter 1.
No phases, Gooch. Chapters.
And we got a sneak peek at a part of chapter 1. So
I would say it looks like part 1. Yeah, part 1 of chapter 1.
Before we start talking about what he talked about, my only question was like, why gods and monsters other than the obvious? Because there is a bunch of gods and monsters in this. We know there's a DC animated movie called Gods and Monsters. I didn't know if there was any other meaning to that title. I don't really think there is.
To be honest, I'm not ready to read into it at all yet.
Yeah, I was reading into it. I'm like, why Gods and Monsters? I'm like, the DC animated film, which is pretty good.
I think it's literally
Michael
because
C.
it's
Hall,
got,
Batman.
you got your gods, Superman, and your monsters, the Commando Squad. Yeah, so
Commandos, yeah.
And I think maybe it's about those worlds intersecting and crossing. And I mean, we're getting certain other very mystical characters, but yeah. So we have the existing slate, like we said, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which is coming soon. The Flash is after that, right?
Yes.
Okay, that will reset the universe. Then we have Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2. We know about all that. Lost Kingdom, great stuff. And then we move in to all the new things. As we said, Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, Part 1. At first off, so I just did these in chronological order with, I guess this is how they're going to be released.
Right, this
but
is
we
how
don't
he
know
talked
for
about
sure.
them in this order.
Yeah, so we only have like exact dates on a certain things or kind of even speculative dates. First up, we have Creature Commandos. It's going to be an animated series. All episodes have been written. I think they said there's like 7 or maybe 8. The characters will move in and out of animation, hopefully with the same characters portraying them. Basically, it's Suicide Squad with classic movie monsters, almost, it seems.
Yes.
To a degree. And
Rick Flag Sr. is in it. Weasel. This is where Weasel's from.
So this is a prequel, you think?
I guess it would have to be.
Current day. Why is that?
Because of Rick Flag's dad.
Yeah, you're right. That would lead me to, but I guess he could just be an old man that's still alive and in the army at current day. And like you could deal with the fallout of his son dying and stuff like that.
Could? So that would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to see where that's set. Very outside the box.
And one thing I have to say of my reaction from this slate, and I know we haven't talked about it, is eccentric.
Yes.
This is really odd.
Yeah.
This isn't like, it's not like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash.
It's not the first 7
It's not like
Justice League members.
The people you would pick. We started out with Creature Commandos?
Yeah.
What a James Gunn
he's
thing
like,
to
this
do.
is like starting it, but he even says later like what the true start
and
of the new
I
DCU
like
is.
the image of the characters we got.
If that's what they're going animation style, I love it.
It looks really cool, and I guess they're going to do some like meta shit with it when he was talking about characters coming in and out of animation, like the character, the actor who is portraying them will also voice them, and I'm like, that's
great.
That's pretty cool.
That's all. And again, that's what I'm talking about though. Like if you can pull that off, fantastic. But that is a bit of a big ask. I think we gotta remember just to get all those people to coordinate across all the different mediums. Next up, we have Waller, which is a live-action series. This is
very
basically
surprising.
Yes. Well, I think this is just because we don't have a Peacemaker season 2 written yet, and James Gunn wants to do that himself when he has the time. But this is basically a connector between season 1 and season 2 of Peacemaker. Viola Davis will return. Waller will team up with members of Team Peacemaker, and the story was created by Crystal Henry, as we said, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol TV series.
So this answers a lot of questions because this is the only time James Gunn talks about Peacemaker. And here's okay. Let's talk about Peacemaker and Suicide Squad. What James Gunn has done for DC. It seemed like James Gunn was clean slate. Yeah. Cavil's out. The old guard seems to be out. Patty Jenkins, I guess not that she isn't writing Wonder Woman, but whatever that was before is out. We see, He's cleaning house.
Is it unfair that he's kept his things?
So that's what I'm getting to. It was surprising to me to see that not only is Viola Davis wasn't his cast. That's technically like a Snyderverse thing.
Yeah.
So like this is where it gets I think confusing. Let me finish.
Yes. No, I agree. Sorry. Jumping in.
Oh. Viola Davis. Yeah. And then right. He talks about Peacemaker. Not only his wife is in that, but he made it, as we just talked about, and it is pretty honest.
And those Suicide Squad characters.
And again, Suicide characters that came from the Snyder era. So it's interesting to see that he would do this. Why not?
Well, but again, and he's leaving,
disassociate.
So this is what I was talking about with the other characters. Like he's like we'll get to it more in miscellaneous. I guess we can just talk about it now.
I understand why keep these characters but not keep Cavil.
Because like I said, this is what I was speaking to before. I think he has such a clear vision of what Superman is going to be next, and that's the character he's focused on. And that is what they're working on now, so that he's like, I don't see Cavil as the Superman for my story. Right. Whereas the other ones are so far. Clear. Whereas Peacemaker, listen, I get it. I think he would have alleviated some haters, quote unquote, that are going to just not like this from the beginning if he were to just axe those characters totally. But at the same time, those are good and successful shows, and that Suicide Squad is great that he made, and I don't know, I think he earned the right to keep those characters personally. For me, I does it outwardly look great, and does it optics wise would it help? I think if he got rid of them,
that's my only
and it's the same with these other characters. It's the same with Shazam. It's the same with what he's talking. Same with Aquaman,
right? Because spoilers, he does kind of leave the door open for everyone else to be like, hey, if you want to like continue to do your character, you can. Mm-hmm. And I
wish they were more definitive on that.
Right. It just seems odd. Like, why leave it in their ballpark?
It seems to be more well. And again, I think the idea is he's saying let's leave it in the ballpark of the writers at the time when they write the movie, and we're not at that point yet.
Right.
So I think he's just saying, well, it's not out of the question. But, like, we're not, like, it's not at your beck and call if we're making this and you want to be like, yeah, I want to come back. We're still going to make that decision. But I agree. I wish he would be more definitive on that stuff. That's where one of my major gripes is with this.
Because I really thought we were going to get away with all of it.
Like, get away with
or do away with all of it.
I did too. So we'll see what happens. I mean, they must really be so confident in the Flash to keep that going, to not cancel that. They really think something like big is going on. So we'll see. So after that, we have the official Superman movie, the new one, Superman Legacy. It's a film, quote unquote. It will be the true beginning of the DCU, and it is set to premiere July 11th, 2025. That's blockbuster season, Gooch. July. That's the big time. So that's cool. And then this was out of the press junket I saw. This was also another thing I got from Dan Murrell as well. The movie focuses on a Superman who is trying to balance his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness, in a world that thinks kindness is old-fashioned. It is a character that should speak to everyone. Do you think Superman should speak to everyone? Because I actually agree with that.
Yes,
I think that's a true statement.
Yes.
He said, I think he said, quote unquote, it's a 4-quadrant movie. Like it should.
What is 4-quadrant?
I guess it appeals to all 4 quadrants of whatever the market
Okay.
like
Right.
yeah
To just show different sections
broad
of people.
appeal
Sure.
yeah
I don't know how I feel about Superman Legacy. Because I think I'm just like, I don't have anything to look at. I don't have anything to go off of. So I'm not.
I really
I'm
like
not,
that quote.
I'm not sure what to think.
It sounds like he's going very Reeves-esque. And
And that's what I don't like. I don't like
See,
fucking Boy Scout Superman. That's exactly why I like Zack Snyder's take on the character.
I hear you. I'm so sick of dark, doomy, gloomy Superman who's like, but I don't want to be Superman. And he never. He was approaching that time to where he was going to be where they were trying to go through that thing, but I don't like that. I want Superman. He doesn't need to be a Boy Scout. He can be interesting.
But Matt Reeves Christopher Reeves Superman is that Superman.
No, I know. I agree. And I meant to say he doesn't need to be an exact Boy Scout, but he can be along that line of like he is the great he is supposed to be that embodiment. He is supposed to be someone.
I like how we see Superman and Lois. He's kind of like a dad first before he is anything else.
Well,
and that's really interesting. And he's not super dark, but he's not like a super
I think
fucking
balancing
Boy
Scout,
Boy Scout either. And I like the way we see him in the animated stuff. And but he really hasn't been portrayed as the Boy Scout like good guy to a fault in like a long time.
I know.
So I guess that's what scares me. It's like, are we really going to go back to that?
But that's what excites, we haven't seen that in a while, and we haven't seen it done well in the modern era.
And I don't like the comic book that they're taking from. I hate that art.
Well, have you read the story? I agree. I don't like the art either, but like,
also,
is the
Superman,
story good? Like, I don't know. Well, but and that seems to be inspiration. Again, like, these seem to be inspirations aside from one that seems to be a more direct, somewhat of a direct adaptation. And honestly, I think they should do this more often with just adapting straight comic book stories.
Marvel definitely doesn't do it.
Well, neither did really DC
started
inspired,
out
and I think
doing it.
I think DC was inspired, but again, like they do it in certain ways. Like, yeah, I know Zack Snyder did Death of Superman, but he did it drastically different from how it was, and he jumped right into it. That is still my biggest gripe with the Snyderverse is he wanted to do everything in 3 movies for some reason. Like, we shouldn't have Superman die in the second time we see him in his second movie. But that's a whole nother thing I digress from. I don't know. This sounds great to me. I want to see that done well, and I think James Gunn could write something great like that. I do want to see Superman be this symbol of hope. And I do think the Snyder one, for all the things I love about it, I do think it leans very heavily into that dark aspect, which is fine. And I don't want him to see just a goody two-shoes Boy Scout, but I don't know. I think there is a good way to make him just the embodiment of good and still make it interesting and not just have him be a Boy Scout who...
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you, but it's just a fear of like, okay, like...
I think the way he
where are we
described
gonna
it is
go?
great. Yeah, and we'll see.
Because it's funny. Besides Henry Cavill, we have not seen a modern-day Superman.
Well, no, we had Brandon Routh, too. Well, it's like
nobody likes
modern.
Superman Returns.
Sure, but I would say Man of Steel is also somewhat divided as well.
I also haven't seen Superman Returns in a long time.
I don't think that... I think that's more regarded fully as like a not great movie, like most people. I agree with that. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with Superman Legacy.
Do you like the title?
I do. I like it a lot. You know what I'm fine with though, and I want to see more of? Numbers. Just give me a fucking number on a movie, because I have to be just for Spider-Man, Homecoming, Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah.
The subtitles get out of hand when it's like into the
like
fifth
the Batman
one.
Part 2. Thank you.
I like the Part 2. Last of Us is doing the Part 2 route.
Doing Part 2, but that really is like a legitimate, like it's Part 1 of the book, Part 2 of the book. So yeah, interesting. Next up.
Here we go.
Dude, this is one I've been waiting for a long time.
So this is... I'm not surprised that they brought this over because this has been a thing for so long.
Well, this
show.
So Lanterns.
Right.
We're getting the series, finally.
Right.
The story will follow Hal Jordan and John Stewart. It is True Detective meets the Green Lantern Corps. It is a terrestrial-based story. The duo will uncover a, quote, terrifying mystery that ties into the larger story of the DCU. This seems to be a pretty big linchpin. Seems to set up what is majorly going on throughout the universe. I just want to see Green Lantern done right. I think this idea of John Stewart and Hal Jordan interacting and their personalities clashing, and they're really trying to do kind of somewhat detective things, like working as cops. Because yeah, Green Lanterns are cops. They're space cops. That's a lot of people maybe don't realize that don't follow the series as much. There are a lot of them, so you have to do some extra work to put in. Why do I care about these Green Lanterns? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I want to see them do that. I think they can. I think with an HBO budget, you can make this into something really cool and special. this is a completely reworked idea from what it used to be.
Right.
Greg Berlanti left the project, who was the original producer.
We've talked about this on the podcast.
It was originally supposed to be a Guy Gardner,
times.
Alan Scott show. We had that Black Canary, Green Lantern discussion.
That's also
ago.
something that was not brought up at all.
But again, I feel like that's like the Nightwing thing we hear about. It's like they might be doing this.
Right. I'm curious if Misha Green is going to come out and be like, yeah, the Black Canary thing is no longer a thing. Because it definitely doesn't seem like it, but we haven't heard anything about it.
But I like this idea of True Detective meets the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah, I'm excited. What do you think the big threat's going to be? What's the big Green Lantern? But I know we have Parallax. Or like, do you think it's going to be like the Red Lanterns? Or...
I think... So it depends on how they're going to set up this big threat. Is the big threat because like Lantern related that's going to affect, like they could do Brightest Night or Darkest Night and things like that. And there are some very Green Lantern centric universe bending storylines. You could do the Black Lantern Corps. You could do the Death Lanterns. I mean, if you really want to start at the basics, and honestly where I think they should is the Yellow Lantern War, the Sinestro Corps War. And all that stuff. And I don't know if that's something you necessarily bring in the whole universe for. So maybe it is Blackest Night. Maybe that's the one that you,
that's what I'm saying.
Really
it's like,
do.
It's like the Yellow Lantern Corps doesn't
if it's
everyone
supposed
else.
to be specifically, I guess it would make sense that it's specifically more tied to the Green Lantern series or the characters because it's in their series. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think they do Darkseid because we just saw him.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't.
And Darkseid really isn't a Green Lantern based villain.
Well, but again, so this is one they
with.
discover. They're saying they discover a mystery that seems to set up the entire
Maybe
what the main overplot is. So is it specifically Lantern related that's going to be, or is it just like they discover something that's affecting the whole world?
Do you think it could be New Genesis?
It could. Like there could be so many different.
Like we don't even get to Apocalypse. We're
assuming
just
it's
remember that New Gods movie?
Yeah. Assuming it's Lantern related, I think they do Blackest Night.
And for those who don't know, what's Blackest Night?
Blackest Night is when basically all of the different colors of the emotional spectrum are introduced, and we meet like the Orange Lantern Corps and the Blue Lantern Corps and Red and all that stuff,
Right.
and the Black. I can't remember exactly how. I haven't read it in so long. The Black the Black emotional spectrum entity like broke free and started creating Black Lanterns from dead heroes. You like blessing them with the lantern rings, and they need to fight back. It's been so long, I can't remember. Basically, they're fighting the Black Lantern Corps, who was taking down
who embodied death.
Who embodied death, correct?
Right.
So you could do something cool there. You absolutely could. I think I guess they can just alternate. Kyle Rayner's really heavily involved in that storyline and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I just am praying for a good Green Lantern something. It's been something on my plate for a while, Gooch.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have a kind of out of left field one. The Authority. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a film. It's based on Wildstorm characters, which was an imprint of DC back in the day.
Which was formerly Image.
Yes, which was like all of these.
Seth MacFarlane,
Jim Lee. Deadpool Man.
Yeah.
Rob
Liefeld.
Liefeld.
Yeah, those guys.
So creators that broke off from these major companies to create one that would let you keep your characters. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's based on those Wildstorm characters, like I said. Gunn described them as, quote, a group of superheroes.
Did I say Seth MacFarlane? I meant Todd McFarlane.
You did. You know what's funny? I was like, isn't that the family? I just kind of moved on.
Todd McFarlane.
Gunn describes them as a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. So I think this is your
boys
crowd.
Yep.
That isn't. But it's not, of course,
it's not
that
going to be
far.
Political and social commentary, but it's going to be like the
it's going to be commenting
who
on
kill
superheroes.
people.
Well, I do think there will be a bit of social commentary, and I think he will lean into
but
that somewhat.
not like what the boys,
to
the
degree.
show is doing.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But there could be something interesting. This is something I know next to nothing about property-wise, and I think I'm going to keep it that way. I'm going to try and do my best to really not look into these characters that much.
I feel like by the time the movie comes out,
I could be. Yeah, listen, I could have watched a whole explainer video. It might happen.
Right, it's going to
happen. Right now, I really don't know much about them. They seem to be an anti-hero Justice League.
I mean, again, that's a James Gunn thing to do. We started off with a weird group, and we're not ending with a weird group.
I think he's starting with some pretty solid characters with Superman and Green Lantern, and then you can bring in this kind of
Right. He's not doing like the full known roster. He's doing like 3 of them, and then he's just sprinkling in some weird shit.
Exactly. It's interesting. And then after the Authority, I should say, we have Paradise Lost, which is probably one of the more interesting picks out of this.
Yeah, and I got a lot of questions about this one.
So this is a series. It's a prequel that follows the story of Paradise Island, aka Themyscira's fall. And basically it's fall to what it is in. It's a prequel series. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Very Game of Thrones toned, apparently. A lot of houses, a lot of political intrigue, back and forth backstabbing. I don't know. I think this is to kind of grab your Pennyworth crowd, because that show apparently did pretty well, even though they just canceled it. Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is kind of their attempt to look for something more adult. They are, like we said before, they're shooting the gambit tone wise. If they actually commit to it too, that's the other thing. They actually have to follow through with these things.
Right.
So we'll see. Anything else to say on Paradise Lost?
Yeah, so I got a lot of questions in regards to, okay, are we totally recasting everyone from Wonder Woman, or are we going with the Snyder aesthetics that he's established with the Amazonians? He casted a lot of them. He obviously casted Gal Gadot in the role, but she's obviously not going to be, Wonder Woman.
Won't be shown. Yeah, this is before she's alive.
Right, but Hippolyta and
I think you could have,
and those characters, they're cast and their looks and aesthetics.
Do you get the Greek gods involved and things like that? Do you get different? I mean, you'll see Hercules probably and things like that if they do that. I think you need to lean into the Greek mythology aspect about it a lot.
But do you want to see the Snyder stuff come back from the Amazonians?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I like that aesthetic.
Awesome.
No, and I mean, if they're going to keep Wonder,
and the cast.
I think it's really coming down to whatever writer they get on. Everything Gunn keeps saying is that it's the creative force is driving here, and I want to believe him. I do, and I think he genuinely thinks that and believes it and wants that to be the case.
Because if they change Themyscira, I guess they change Wonder Woman.
That's what I mean. Or they don't, and they just bring her back. Like, again, I think this is really left up to, he's leaving this in the hands of whoever they bring on to do these projects.
Well, I think the idea is interesting, and the premise, I'm not like, would I've ever asked for this? No.
Again, I think this is more their shot in the dark, and to get an older crowd in. Next up, we have one that I think a lot of people are excited for. I think he's a bit of a cult classic hero. Mr. Booster Gold is getting a live action series.
This is a project that's been around long fucking
10
time.
10 years, 20. I mean, I feel like there's always been like a possible project percelating. I know there was one a while back, but it is going to be a series, and James Gunn said it is, quote, the superhero version of Imposter Syndrome. So if you don't know who Booster Gold is, he's a guy from the 31st century who brings back all of this future technology that is very rudimentary technology in the future to be a superhero in the present day and just to be cool. Like, he's kind of he does it just to be like, look at how cool I am. I'm saving people. Could be very cool. This is your comedy series, and if you hit that tone right and get the casting right, that could be very cool. Who do you want as Booster Gold?
I think that's a pretty
a good
easy character to cast,
and I think you can get a known character for that one. For me, I think a lot of these I would love to see them, like especially Superman. I want them to go more unknown.
Do you have an idea? I mean, you put me on the spot.
No, you're right.
But I can see him.
I know.
I can see him.
I can too. I mean, he wouldn't do it, but I do think
I'm thinking Chris Pratt.
I do think Ryan Gosling would do great in that.
Ooh.
I think he could play that very well.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would do it.
I think he'd have to pack on some muscle.
Oh, I mean, he could do that easily. Have you seen the guy? Come on.
Yeah, I've seen the guys.
Great stuff. Yeah, the guys.
I was like, he's in some of my favorite movies.
Dude. You know what was so funny? I found out the other day, just a quick side tangent. You know one of my most hated movies ever, The Predator? It was written by I can't remember his name. Shane Black.
Like the one we reviewed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's, again, give me numbers. The Predators, Predators. Which one is it? I don't remember. The most recent one.
Yeah, the one that I was
Shane Black.
yeah, this is like
and I just despised it.
Yeah.
It was written by Shane Black, who did The Other Guys. Not The Other Guys. The Nice Guys.
Yeah,
have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I
one
haven't
of
seen
the
it, but
funniest fucking movies I've ever seen. Genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time.
Ryan Gosling's in it, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, it made me think back. I'm like, did you do this on purpose? Like, did you make this movie so terrible just to see if you... I don't know. It just blew me away. Anywho, side tangent over. Let's get back. Next up, Gooch, I think this is the one that you might be the most excited for. Would you say that's fair to say?
Abs. Wait, you skipped one.
What did I skip? Oh, fuck, I did. I'm sorry. So, going back one, we missed a big one. The Brave and the Bold, which is the next Batman where the new DCU Batman will be introduced. It is a film. It is a Batman and Robin father-son story.
Great.
Yeah, I think this is a cool angle.
That is
something we've
one
never seen.
thing of the Batman verse that we are missing in
especially
like,
Damian
everything.
Wayne. I think this idea of the father-son dynamic is even another layer.
And that's kind of where it's like, it sucks they're not doing Dick Grayson, but I kind of understand.
But
why
you know what that leaves
Wayne.
them open for? Nightwing exists. Jason Todd exists. They're out already doing their thing.
I guess,
Tim Drake is already dead and maybe Tim Drake's dead at this point and he thinks he's dead. I think that allows you to set up these many different things.
So this film did mention, James Gunn did mention that they're like setting up like the last thing he says. Batman tries to get in line, and so the story of the two of them and the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU. So I imagine all his sidekicks will have existed
I would hope
and
so.
will be in this movie.
Or not. I don't even think they necessarily have to be in the. I think you can have Nightwing show up or something because he needs help.
I think he needs to see them all.
I think that's a big ask, Cooch.
I think they need to do it.
I think give me Nightwing and I'd be satisfied. Like he brings Nightwing in to help him, like because he does show up in that. I think have you seen Batman versus Robin?
Yeah, Son of Batman too.
Yeah,
it's
good.
That's
They're good. Yeah. So I think that could be very good. I want to read that Grant Morrison run. He was mentioned a lot during this. So
yeah, he was.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
but follows Batman.
I'm not
as
like
he trains
big
his
on
son.
the title.
The Brave and the Bold.
Yeah,
I kind of like it. It's very classic.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's I guess it's world's finest is
Superman
and Batman.
Yeah.
No, I think that works very well. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm interested to see a Robin. I think at this point, I think that's where my biggest intrigue is like we have not seen Robin done properly, and I shudder to even say since is it Batman Forever that he's introduced?
Yes.
Yeah. That was the only version of Dick Grayson we ever got.
Gooch, I cannot sanction your buffoonery on this. Okay.
and then in Batman and Robin, which just made it all worse.
Yeah.
And then we got Batgirl in that, but like besides those two movies, we've never seen
live action Bat family stuff.
Live action Robin.
And I mean, we just got
ever.
Nightwing. That's like very recent. I mean,
yeah,
we saw
in
Titans. We see
but Robin, not beginning Robin, not like he was post Robin.
Yeah, I think Damian Wayne can be an annoying character sometimes. But I think if he
he's so rigid,
and he's just such a
he
snotty
has to be
little
written
jerk.
a certain way.
That's what I mean. He has to be a jerk. He has to be a little jerk. He does.
Yeah.
And there's a way that you can play that is fun, but there's a way that you can play that it leans just annoying.
Yeah, Damian Wayne is definitely not a character that I'm like jazzed about.
Sure.
I kind of like how they did him in Injustice because he was older.
Yeah.
And I mean, but still,
even in that, at the beginning, he didn't seem
a total asshole.
Well, he didn't in the flashbacks. He didn't seem as asshole-ish, but
maybe he was past some of the assholishness
for sure. But so very interesting. I think that all but confirms we won't see a Robin and Matt Reeves Batman, which, to be honest, the idea of seeing a Robin in that universe intrigues me more.
Nuts.
That's what I mean.
Nuts.
Like him actually training.
What if he had just had another version of him?
That's the thing.
Something in the way.
I think this works better. And I think this works better, and I think this makes execs more. I feel like execs are very uncomfortable with the idea of a 13-year-old Robin, like an actually really young Robin that Batman is training, because you're like taking this child and just bring him out to beat people on the streets. Whereas I think with him being his son, his actual biological son, that kind of makes people, I don't know, feel a bit better.
Are they going to cast like a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old?
Because I think you go 12, 13. Okay. I think that's as low as you can go, in my opinion.
I mean, dude, let's push it.
But dude, if they
4 years old,
8, I just don't think you can get a good actor at. I think you need to find a really good 12-year-old actor.
Yeah,
a really good 12-year-old actor that's going to grow into that. And guess what? If that does keep going, you see Damian take over that role. Like it's interesting. But can't wait to see it. All right, after Booster Gold, which we said before, we have Superman, Woman of Tomorrow,
Supergirl.
Sorry,
you're getting tongue.
I'm getting all tongue twisted. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It is quote unquote a big science
and you were
fiction.
Right. This is the one
film.
I'm most interested about.
Good.
Yeah.
So it is going to be quote a big science fiction epic film. It is based on the Tom King run from last year
of the same name.
Yes. It follows a jaded Supergirl that had to survive on a treacherous chunk of Krypton that has slowly killed everyone she has held dear.
So
have you read this?
No, I need to. It's been on my list too, like very unironically. So I think Supergirl is best when she's angry. And this is an angry Supergirl. A Supergirl,
and I think that's a good juxtaposition with the Superman we might be getting.
Right. So in this run, Supergirl isn't jettisoned off of Krypton. She's on like
a piece of Krypton, right?
Right, that's already like off the planet, and she watches Krypton explode, and she's sent to Earth to follow Superman to do exactly what she normally does to help her cousin. But
this is after surviving on that planet for a while, right? So,
I don't know how long.
So that's the thing. I'm confused on how much of, because he says big science fiction epic film. That leads me to believe this is out in space most of the time. And that maybe she arrives at Earth at the end.
So it is none of the comic really takes place on Earth. So like she gets there.
So that
Superman's already Superman, and she doesn't know what the fuck to do. Superman doesn't need her.
Yeah.
So she's like,
she was sent there to protect him,
and she's living in his shadow.
Yeah.
So I think it goes off the idea that she's been there, and she leaves Earth and goes to like a random alien planet and has this like sort of like finding herself, but
journey,
she's like
a coming of age story almost to a degree. How old is she in it? Do you know? Is she like a full grown woman, or is she still okay?
Yeah, but she's like a killer. Like she's not really good, and she like kills like these aliens on this planet.
Guess what, Gooch? We've had some mean Superman for a little bit, and I feel like just bad versions of Superman in general over the past 10 years a lot. I'll take a mean version of Supergirl.
I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know the comic to a T. I haven't read it. The art's really cool.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's really some cool panels of her like sitting there like covered in blood after a fight on an alien world, and she's got a sword in it a lot. Yeah, I think this could be really interesting. Again, like Melissa Benoist is like kind of the face of Supergirl right now, and this would be so far from that Supergirl. So I think it'd be really cool to see just like a totally different version of the character.
She was great in that show.
Yeah, but again, I want angry Supergirl is best when she's mad. It's just
not a character I've read much of, so yeah. I'm very.
I gotta read this run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's seriously.
And then I'm running that
I'm
thing
so
like,
band with comics, man. They're always like on my list.
Well, see, and that's I never keep up at the time. It's always after.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. And then to round out the list here, probably right, but like Green Lanterns is here. This is probably like right here for me. Like very tight race. We got Swamp Thing to round us out, which kind of surprised me a bit. In a great way.
That was like literally the first thing I was gonna say. I was surprised that Swamp Thing is gonna be a part of this.
So, Gunn describes it as quote a very dark horror story and the origins of the monster who is Swamp Thing unquote. It will be tonally outside of the DCU, but will still be a very important aspect of it, and will introduce I think very much more mystical sides of it that we'll probably see already to begin with, but even more so with like the green and. Yeah, I don't know, man. Swamp Thing does seem like something they've been trying to make happen for a while, and just one thing or another comes up. And I mean, the last show got hit on the last round of like WB shakeups when they pulled it for the funding and things like that. And if you haven't seen the DC Universe Swamp Thing,
it's on HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max. Go watch that shit. It's so good. It ends rather abruptly, which is sad because they literally didn't get to finish the last 2 or 3 episodes, but goddamn, what a show! And I think it really encapsulates that Alan Moore run in a very interesting way, and that seems to be what they're taking a lot of inspiration from for this movie. Now, in the later days, we did get some word that it appears that James Mangold might be in the running from this. It seems like they actually offered him the film, or at least as far as sources say.
So who's James Mangold?
He did Logan, and he also did.
He directed it.
Yeah, he directed Logan.
Okay.
He directed. What else did he direct before that? He's a great director. He also did the new Indiana Jones. I couldn't get it off my tongue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The stupid Dial of Destiny. Where the fuck?
You don't like that name?
So
you don't think that's any more silly than the Temple of Doom,
brother? It sounds like a fucking like PC like early O's spin-off Indiana Jones games name.
It doesn't.
Dial of Destiny literally sounds like it's from like the PS2.
Temple of Doom.
That's fine.
I don't know. They seem on the same level to me.
It's the alliteration.
All right, fair enough. But I don't know. Yeah, I like it. But
so when I saw this, I don't know if we talked about this in the Discord or not, but we're getting in the Justice League Dark territory, trio.
Well, no, dude, and Caster, why not?
Who would I love to see come direct fucking Justice League Dark other than Guillermo del Toro himself?
That would be very interesting.
That rumored project for so long.
Well, it was live. It was dead. It was a lot. That went through so many iterations.
Fucking cool.
Yeah,
because I think in this James Gunn's DC universe,
it would be cool.
That could happen.
Oh, good. I think it absolutely could.
Because like, why else would they be bringing in Swamp Thing? They're clearly setting up some sort of maybe like a cross between the mystical and the space.
Yeah,
right?
and I think they seem to want to hit every genre, and it's like
Right.
it's tough. It's a tough task. No, you're fine. It's a tough task to pull off, to marry so many different things into a single universe that are so tonally separate. It's doable. It's gonna be a hard task though, and I want to see him do it, and I'm gonna be sitting there if Swamp Thing ever does come out, which hey, it couldn't.
So the only thing,
and wondering, is this the dark horror story that they really said?
so the only thing we had a date on is Superman Legacy.
Yeah, and well, the Batman. But yeah, that doesn't
count.
Yeah,
That doesn't count.
but
We
other
know
than that,
that's happening.
yeah, it seems like the idea is that's the order in which they'll come out, somewhat. But
So why do you think Superman is the only thing with a date?
because that's what they're focused on right now. That's going to be the foundational block.
So that would imply that it would be first, you know?
But it basically is. I mean, I think it's the first film. It's the first major project.
Yeah, it's the first film. You're right.
And it's
you're right.
like, I mean, aside, they have the animated shows and like the live action, like the Waller show, but that's not. Superman's going to be the first cornerstone that they are going to lay, and it better fucking hold weight.
Oh my god! I'm like thinking about that was so dramatic. I'm just thinking about like when that trailer comes out, and we see it.
No, and I mean, dude, that'll happen.
It's gonna be like
that'll happen in like a year and a half
from Ted 2.
Yeah.
Now this new Superman,
Jonah Hill.
Fuck.
That's a good one.
Like, and I don't want to be like, hey Trio, who do you think is gonna play Superman? Because we have no fucking idea. I'll tell you that much. I don't like how people on Twitter are kind of like telling him who to cast. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
But who cares?
Shut the fuck up. Let him do what he wants.
You just described Twitter. Like
Yeah,
that's just
I know,
what, like,
I
you
know,
know, everyone's always gonna.
And the trunks or no trunks thing on Twitter, I was like, James Gunn, no trunks, none. I don't want to see it.
This table, like the house in 1776, is divided. I want some trunks. I want those.
And he's like,
trunks.
by the way, this poll,
will not decide it.
I was like,
unless it aligns with my view or something like that. Like it was funny.
Yeah, the Twitter poll had no reflection on what the actual decision would be. I thought it was at first. I was like,
oh no, I didn't think so.
God.
I think it was more to just get like a
feel.
test in the water of like how
dude.
do people feel about trunks? That is a big thing now.
I think it like.
There are a few.
It's fine in animation. It's when you get to the live action that the trunks get kind of odd. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think you can do it.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I just don't think you've seen
He
it
doesn't
done
have
well.
him in Superman and Lois, but like Brandon
Superman
Routh,
Returns, it looks good. I think.
Brandon Routh in Kingdom Come Superman, he has him. Oh, that's super.
And he does have it in also the Superman Returns, but still.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. So that's our slate. We have a few other miscellaneous news announcements that we got out of the press conference here.
So, do we understand exactly? Like, did they have some sort of press event?
Yes, they did that morning.
Like
yeah.
the White House press conference.
I
where
think
they're
they
standing at the podium.
They had
like,
Hollywood Reporter come in. They had Variety come in, and I think they briefed them all. And then after they briefed them all, is when they put out that
video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, because I was just like, where's all this information?
Yeah, they had
coming
like a
from?
full-on press conference. It looks like.
Yeah.
So our miscellaneous announcements: Superman and Lois.
Oh wait, do we want to read his end quote?
Yeah. If you. Oh yeah. Story. That's right.
Yeah.
You want the whole one? The red one or the?
Yeah, I was gonna read the red one.
Go for it.
Just I'll give you a break.
No, it's not, yeah.
So this is what he ends with. I've loved the DC characters since I was a child. They're incredibly important to me. I knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something very different. One of those things that's very important for me and all of these movies and TV series is that the director's vision and the vision of the writers and all of the creators is unique and something special. Storytelling is always king. That's what always matters to us, and I want that to be true to those stories. I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different that you've never seen before. Anyway, thank everybody for watching. Yada yada yada.
Appreciate you. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but storytelling is always king.
I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire on that one, James.
It's all that matters to us.
I hope so. And let's do it. That's a great way to end it for sure.
Those words could not be more antithetical to what WB was before.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's why he said them, because he needed to let people know that, listen, we're going to prioritize the creators.
There are new
this time.
captains. Hey,
Right.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Yeah. James Gunn is piloting this ship.
So
Is it a boat? Is it a spacecraft? I don't know.
is it the Fortress of Solitude? We'll never tell. So yeah, we'll finish it off here with the miscellaneous news from the announcement. Superman and Lois apparently have about 1 or 2 seasons left, says James Gunn and Peter Safran. Safran also teased that Aquaman 3 is happening, and he said, quote, Jason always saw Aquaman as a trilogy. So that's going back and forth with the whole Lobo thing that we've been seeing here.
And James Gunn, I'll jump down a little bit. Yeah. James Gunn says they won't have actors playing more than one role in DCU, and I think that was directly thrown at Jason Momoa, kind of talking about Lobo the past few.
Well, talking about something. He didn't specifically say Lobo, but it all
right.
seems to be Lobo.
But he's saying I'll always be Aquaman, but I'll do something else. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
fucking Jason Momoa. But here's the thing I'll say about Jason Momoa: he's been right. Everything he says. He's always had some sort of.
He seems to have a good relationship with WB, just in general.
You're right. He was talking about the Snyder Cut stuff before anyone else was. So I do think there is something to note from the words that come out of his mouth.
For sure. So, and then we had another kind of pointed moment from James Gunn about Henry Cavill. He said, quote, he didn't fire Henry Cavill. Henry was not cast. For me, it's about who do I want cast as Superman? Who do the filmmakers we have want to cast? And for me, the story, it isn't Henry. He also added, I like Henry. He's a great guy. I think he's getting dicked around by a lot of people, including the former regime at this company. But this Superman is not Henry for a number of reasons. So again, very definitive statement, which I kind of appreciate. But I just wish he was a bit more definitive on the other casting and such, which we mentioned.
Right.
After that, and this was, I kind of thought, aside, it's funny, I don't even really feel like this was a controversy, but I guess it made enough of a splash to like for someone to say something.
Ask him about it.
But James Gunn was talking about Zachary Levi's recent controversial tweet,
which was about Pfizer,
and
say no more. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He said, "quote I can't be changing my plans all the time because an actor says something that I don't agree with." Unquote. Or quote, actors and filmmakers that I work with are going to say things that I agree with and things that I don't agree with all the time.
And why I think this is important is because of what happened to James Gunn.
Sure. I agree.
And how Marvel,
I just appreciate how he was like, shut up. Like from that.
Right. Really, like it doesn't matter. It like is really what those words mean to me. It's like people disagree. It doesn't matter what his opinion is because it's not changing anything.
Yeah. It's not like.
Yeah. Whereas the opposite happened with him. Shit got dug up from his Twitter in the past and he got fired for it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Marvel knew about that.
Obstacles become opportunities, baby. That's how this all came to be.
Yep, absolutely, for sure. And then we did have something here about. Obstacles create opportunities. That makes sense.
No. Did I say it wrong? Obstacles create opportunities.
No, that's what you said. You said it right. Yeah.
Okay. We're good.
So, speaking to Ezra Miller's recovery, Peter Safran stated that Ezra Miller is committed to their recovery and will discuss the future of the Flash at a later date.
Yeah, we kind of
said, quote, we feel like they're ready to have the discussion. When we feel like they're ready to have the discussion, we'll figure out what the best path is forward. I do think this is weird, and I think it's...
But somebody clearly asked them about it. Right?
Well, no. I think just this whole situation, like, first off, Ezra Miller should have been fired before this movie ever got made. For a lot, like, at least on the, like, from a lot of things that happened on the set, if it was going to happen. At this point... I guess it seems like they are in recovery and are doing things. Best of luck to them. They must just love that movie. Genuinely. Like, they must, like, be watching that movie like, this is too good, and we are so confident in this that we're just going to hold off. Like, this is all we can say at this point. That's all I can surmise from it. Because they fucking can Batgirl with not even a second thought.
But then, what Peter Safran says about Batgirl, I just don't really understand.
So yeah, this is up next. I mean, why don't? So I'm curious to know why you don't understand it after I say it. Peter Safran said that Batgirl was unreleasable. He said
was not releasable.
Was not releasable. Yeah. He said I actually believe David Zaslav and the team made a very bold and courageous decision to cancel it because it would have hurt DC. It would have hurt everyone involved.
I don't understand what that means. What do you mean it would have hurt DC?
It means people would have saw that. That's what he's saying. Yeah, he's saying it's that bad. That it was so bad that it would have hurt the brand. And it was better.
What a fucking claim.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like that seems like a very definitive statement. It's a very
big claim.
And
I see. So
apparently it test screened and it got similar reactions to I can't remember what movie, but I don't know. I'd love to talk to someone from that test screen. Oh. Can I put if anyone went to a Batgirl test screen and went to that test screen, message us. You don't have to tell us who you are. I want to hear the full deets. I'm not kidding. You probably won't reach out, but tell us.
DelcoNerds at gmail.com.
gmail.com.
But here's the other thing.
Use a burner account.
I want to say is, Leslie Grace did kind of tweet the final suit to us.
Yeah.
Like she revealed that. I'm curious if the directors are really kind of under the gun or under some sort of pressure to not speak out, because I mean I know Brendan Fraser made that joke in an interview for The Whale, but like nothing has really come out about it, and I'm kind of surprised none of these actors or people involved have, because like what do they have to fucking lose? In a way.
Well, I think they lose a relationship with that company. They don't care. They already got paid for it.
Or their professional integrity,
that's what I mean.
Right? Yeah.
So
I guess they do have something.
They got
to
paid
lose,
for
but...
it. They don't care. I genuinely think. I don't know. I think it was probably one. It wasn't getting great reviews, and someone I saw them saying it was like a CW episode of a show. Who knows if it was that bad?
It's so crazy.
I don't know. It's very interesting. It was a very definitive statement on that. But as for another interesting property, when asked about the fate of CW's Gotham Knights, James Gunn and Peter Safran had no comment.
Because it's trash and it's going to go.
Well, and it's probably
made.
No, I also think it's something that's probably being made that they don't want made, but they can't stop from being made for some weird copyright reasons or things like that. You know what I mean?
And they don't want to tarnish it before it even comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
They just want it to come out, and then it'll be canceled like 4 episodes in, and then we'll all go on with our fucking days.
Because to finish,
nobody was watching fucking Gotham Knights to begin with.
I don't even know. It has some made up like new orphan that Bruce Wayne took in. And for the last one, which I thought this was very good, and if they stick to this has been a big problem in Hollywood for a bit now. Gunn states that films will no longer be fast tracked without completing a script. No more getting 2/3 of it done, starting the filming and writing it out the day of. He said he saw a lot of issues with that in the past couple of years, especially.
So does that mean at DC or at Marvel, or both?
In general, I think he's talking about. I just think he's talking about the film industry, because DC was doing that too. Absolutely.
Was Marvel doing it?
I mean, I assume there's probably some. I'm sure a lot of that stuff's pre-written, like action. I would love to be in the process of how a Marvel script gets written and how it gets really like produced and like where genuinely just because I don't know, especially now. Like back in the day, it was different, but it would be a very interesting cake to see get made, or however the sausage. I did this. Did I do this last time?
Yeah, you did this last time. Sausage.
It's the sausage. I'm sorry, guys, but that about covers us for this DCU Rebirth Volume 2. Gooch, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I hope we don't do another one of these podcasts anytime soon, because to be honest, I'm fucking exhausted. Like, I remember in like November and December, I was just like, I cannot stand this right now. There's so much DC news coming out.
Flux.
It's all
contradicting.
None of it makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't know what's true, what's not, who's right, who's wrong, who's at fault, who's not at fault. And now that this is out, James Gunn said he was going to deliver the slate for the end of January. He literally did it on the last possible day.
And I was confident he was going to, because he hadn't said anything by then. I think if he knew it wasn't going to happen in the month of January, he would have been upfront and been like, it's not happening.
I don't think we're going to hear much about any of this for a long time.
No. I think we're going to get these. We're going to hopefully get some successful next movies.
Could be said.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we got Shazam in March. That's like a month away.
We have their plan. Let's hope they stick to it. That's all we can say.
And then we have The Flash in June.
Oh, that is in March. I'm actually really excited for Shazam.
And then is Aquaman October?
December, I think.
Okay. Yeah,
At least it was December last year.
So we have the rest of the year to kind of deal with the DC movies that have been out. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
The Flash isn't this year, right?
It is.
Oh, duh.
It's second.
Next major trailer is the Super Bowl, right? I think I saw online.
Yes.
So
yeah, we're getting this trailer, the Super Bowl.
We're going to see that mashed potato cowl again on his head. God, I hate it so much. It's like, who even...
I'm actually fucking excited to see that trailer.
I'm excited to see it too. I have listen, like I said, it's insane how much confidence they have in it. So it must be something. I would hope it's something.
Is back.
He is, or they are. Anyways,
they are the Flash.
They are the Flash.
Doesn't sound that right.
Doesn't sound. Anywho, thank you all if you've been watching with us live on twitch.tv/Delco Network. We very much appreciate your time. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Delco Nerd Network. We're on all your social media pages as well, at Delco Nerds on basically everything. We have a Facebook page. We have a Discord channel, all of which should be linked down below. You can find all this information on our website, DelcoNerdNetwork.com. You can even email us, delconerds@gmail.com, with your comments, questions, or concerns, or even like topic ideas and stuff. Whatever you guys want to talk to us about, we'd be happy to get back to you. If you guys can subscribe, leave a comment, that always helps, especially on YouTube. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast service. It goes a long way. Tell a friend even Who knows if you're feeling spicy? But for Gooch, I've been Trio. Thanks for watching. Stay nerdy, guys, and we will see you next time.